evening, guys, and welcome to another episode of the official All or Nothing podcast. Tonight, I have a massive treat for you with former Philadelphia mobster Bobby Luisi of the Bruno and Scarfo family. Now, Bobby has spent 14 years in prison. He's also linked to half a dozen murders. In the 1990s, Bobby was the Philadelphia mob's point man in Beantown, who generated tens of thousands of dollars through loan sharking, extortion, and drug dealing. Now, I'm going to play you a little clip about Bobby.
It is an amazing story of a real-life former Boston mob boss living right here in the Memphis area, a mobster turned pastor who knows deep knowledge of mob ways, including made men and wise guys.
My crew was so tight that a lot of people had to go through my crew to come and talk to me. I made millions of dollars with the drugs.
Two members of his crew are suspected by the FBI of being involved in the 1990 $500 million art heist at Boston's Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum. 13 masterworks, including Rembrandt, stolen, some cut out of their frames. Do you think he had something to do with it?
No, absolutely.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I do. I do. That's what they did. They were thieves.
When FBI agents arrested him for drug trafficking.
I was happy because in my heart I knew it was over.
Right.
And this was God's way of saving me.
Esposito spent 14 years behind bars where he got a degree in theology. He started teaching Bible courses to fellow inmates. He is a pastor, has written a book about the Bible. He left the Witness Protection Program because he said he's not afraid. He is teaching at Faith Keepers Ministry, has a website, and is on YouTube and Facebook. He says he is a very different man.
And I'm here now and I'm a pastor. And God placed me here.
Bobby Luisi, welcome, buddy.
Thank you, my friend. It's great to be here, Decca. Thank you for having me on.
Pleasure. Absolute pleasure, Bobby.
I'll tell you, anything over there in the UK, I love to do, my friend. I really do.
The thing is, Bobby, I do things my way on this podcast, and I'm going to get right into it with you.
Okay.
You've openly admitted to murder.
Yes.
Can you tell me about in 2000 when you admitted to murdering Anthony DiPrizio in 1997?
Well, I don't know what I could say too much about that, you know, but yeah, Anthony DiPrizio, someone asked me to clip him, and I set out to do that for someone else. You know, Anthony DiPrizio was from the neighborhood, grew up in the North End. Friends with my family, but he was on the other team at the time. In Boston in 1990, there was a war going on with the different factions, from the old faction to the new faction, and we were the new faction. As time went on, he was a little slippery for me to get. As time went on, we ended up setting him up and got clipped. Yeah.
Do you know when you killed Bobby, when you worked in the mob, did you have any empathy whatsoever?
No, I can't say that I did because, you know, it's not that we killed innocent people, you know. These men were looking to hurt me and my friends. So whatever we did, and I got to admit to violence before I even joined the mob. You know, it's not much that I could talk about that right now, you know. Yeah. But when you're in that life, it's part of the life, and it's something you want to do. I mean, nobody joins the mob to be a murderer, you know, unless there's a little something touchy with you, you know. But when you're in Decca, you got to do what you have to do. You got to make your bones.
Would you consider yourself as grown up as a kid, Bobby? Did you have a good upbringing?
Well, my father was a gangster that I can remember since I was a kid, you know. I'll tell you the kind of childhood I had. 11 years old. I was working for the gangsters with the pinball machines, you know, and the money machines. They were dime machines at the time. I forget the proper name of them. It's been years, you know. And the Angiulo family was the family in Boston at the time under Raymond Petriarca. And I worked for Ronnie Romanowski. And I worked from 11 years old. And from that time on, you know, I was always around the gangsters. My father was with these people. And actually, I'd say 15, 16, I felt I was getting groomed by them, you know. We were hanging around with them. And, you know, it's just the violence of the mob's been around my life. Even my mother got remarried, and my father, Santo, she's been married to Santo for, 55 years. God bless them. You know, they're still married. A great guy. And he was a street guy, too. So there was no escaping the bookmaking, the loan sharking, the violence. You know, I just grew up with it in both households. You know, that's the way it was in the neighborhoods, in East Boston and the North End, you know.
I always say, Bobby, that you're a product of your environment growing up.
Oh, you are. Absolutely. I believe it.
And you were surrounded by mobsters from a young age.
Yeah.
And when you were introduced into that lifestyle, you know, did you always know you were going to become a gangster?
No, I didn't want to be a gangster. Actually, 16, 17 years old, I had an apartment in North End, my father's building. He had a big 10-family building, and he gave me an apartment there. And I was hanging around with my father and these guys, but I used to go to work after school for a carpenter. And in the summers, I used to make $400 or $500 a week, you know, if we worked late. And that was a lot of money in those days, you know. So I really got into the building because my family, that's their occupation. They're all builders and carpenters. So I really got into that. And I really just wanted to be a builder. I had 2 builder's licenses by the time I was 23. Was on Martha's Vineyard. I'm sure you know about the vineyard. It's a big vacation spot down at Cape Cod. People come in from all over the world. You know, I was down there. I built 50, 100 homes in the 80s before I came back. Unfortunately, the market crashed in the late 80s, and I lost all my spec houses on the vineyard, my condo in Boston. Came home with $100 in my pocket with 2 kids, you know, after all of that. And that's when I hit the street. I lost everything, and I felt, listen, I'm a Luisi, let me go on the street, and that's what I did.
When you were earning good money from a young age, Bobby, did you become addicted to the money early in life?
No, I never cherished money, you know. I always worked and was well off, and I think better than other people. I bought my first property when I got married. I was 21 years old, got my first building, and by the time I was 24, I had 3 of them, and I just worked hard every day. Money meant nothing to me. You know, when I got home after losing everything, I think probably, let me say, I come home at 90. By 93, I made my first million again. 94. And then from there, it just boomed, you know. But I was a sport with money. It wasn't about the money with me, to be honest with you, Decca. It was about the power and the ego. I loved that more in the limelight than I did the money. The money was just a tool to walk through it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that, Bobby. You know, with you being a tough guy and having a reputation, did you thrive off that? Did you enjoy having that reputation?
Well, yeah, I'm not going to lie, because I seen what it did for my father his whole life. I mean, you are what you are. You know, it's like when you go in that ring, you know what I mean, brother? I mean, that's my ring, the world out there. And to be successful, you got to be fair. You got to be a tough guy. You got to be a killer. People have to know that you're going to do what you have to do. So, yeah, I thrived on that a little. I can't lie to you about that. But I do have to tell you that, you know, I felt, besides all we did, is I ended up, I wanted to be more like a peacemaker than a bad guy at the end. You know what I mean? If that makes sense.
I spoke to your friend, you're good friends with johnalite, who I've
Yes, I am.
recently had on the podcast, Bobby.
Yeah.
And I asked John the same question. Growing up as a kid, did you feel a pressure to live up to your father's reputation?
That maybe to some point, but not maybe like other people, you know. Like I said, I saw what my father did. He was there. If I needed him, he was there for me. I didn't have to come on the street and be a bad guy. I wasn't looking to do that. Actually, I think John's father was a working guy himself. I know he was around the guys, but he was a working guy, you know. And I don't know. I think, yeah, maybe when I came back in the 90s, I kind of wanted to be a little worse than my father. And I didn't even have to push to that. I found out afterwards that maybe I was more vicious and ruthless than he actually ever was.
Yeah.
It's sad, but, you know, it comes out of you. You know, I think from all my experiences in the past when I was a kid, and, you know, I don't want to bring up the broken home thing, but they were divorced when I was children. And my father, Santo's a great guy. I love him more than my own dad, you know, but it was hard living with him. You know, 11 years old, I moved in with my grandmother. You know, I didn't have an easy childhood. I always worked after school. You know, I wasn't one of those kids that came up and shoveled, you know, the snow for 50 cents and do things like that. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have a normal childhood. So I think there was a lot of bitterness in me. By the time I came back in 90, it just all came out. I couldn't suppress it anymore because I didn't care about life or death for myself or anybody else.
Yeah, a little question for you, mate. You know, you were saying about being brought up in a broken home. Do you think that had an effect later in life with you loving people?
With me loving people? I think, yeah. Well, you know what I found? You know, there was like a callus over my heart all my life. You know, I can never trust anybody. I can never fully give myself to anybody, even my wife. You know, it's hard when you have all that hurt inside of you. And believe me, I married a beautiful Irish girl, 21 years old, we were married. You know, and unfortunately, she's not in my life anymore. You know, but that life made me blow a lot of things. But I couldn't love her properly. I know I loved her, but not properly. Until Christ came in my heart, then I started to see what love truly was. And I love to love people.
Yeah.
To help people. You know, I think I always had that good in me, but it didn't know how to come out of me. The other side came out, unfortunately.
With being a tough guy on the streets, Bobby, did you ever feel like you were always trying to live up to other people's expectations of you?
No, I think you are what you are. You can handle what you can handle, you know. Me on the street, I didn't give a shit how tough a guy was, if he was a killer, whatever he was. I had to go do what I had to go do. I'd approach anybody, I'd go after anybody. Even the main guys up in Boston from the Patriarchas, I would go right at them. Because that's what I was raised to do, you know. If that answers your question, if I answered it right.
Yeah. This is a bit of a mad one, Bobby, but you know what I mean? I'll always speak openly. How did it feel killing somebody? Like, what was your thought process when you were killing a man?
You know, I get asked that question. I don't know. To me, it was more of an adrenaline rush. I'll tell you a funny story. I'll tell you how sick I was. I'll tell you a funny story. I was in a shooting, but no one got killed. It was with a friend of mine. He was a May guy. And I got excited. I went home. My poor wife, well, she was happy, you know, and it brought something out of me. It just, it gave me an excitement in a way. You know, this one I knew I was like losing it, you know. And my friend comes over the next morning, and my wife said, "What did you do last night?" Bobby was all over me when he came home, and he looked at me like I was sick. But I think in that mindset, if you can understand what I'm saying, if the people can understand, you're in that. You can't dread it. You have to live with it. You have to cope with it. And that's the way I found to cope with it.
Yeah.
Like jumping out of an airplane.
Yeah, Bobby, just 1 minute, a minute. I've just seen a couple of people writing. I just want to ask my guy Axel if the sound's okay. Can you hear me and Bobby? Axel, is everything good on that front? Perfect. Yeah, sounds good. I've got somebody saying that the sound's a bit. It must be on your side, Alex. What I'm going to do, Bobby, as well. I also want to say to the viewers that are in. You can donate to the channel, guys. Listen, £1, £2, it doesn't matter what it is. Any donation, you will get to ask Bobby questions. If you want, the donation will come up on the screen. We'll put the question on the screen. I will ask Bobby the question from the audience. We'll do that towards the middle and the end of the interview, Bobby. So anybody that wants to donate, go to the $ in the comments, click donate, and then you will get Axel to put the questions up on the screen. But yeah, Bobby, mate, you've got a very interesting story. One story that I am very interested in is the Whitey Bulger story.
Well, I'll tell you, Whitey was more of my father's generation, not mine. You know his partner, Stevie Fleming. He's another character out of that crew, but Whitey. And they killed a lot of people. And, you know, at one time, I know Whitey was tied in with the IRA. There were drugs and guns going back and forth. You know, Whitey was a bad guy. Whitey was in South Boston. That was his territory. He was also there, though, and nobody realized, with Stevie Fleming, Frankie and Jackie Salemi, Larry Bione, who was the capo, a big capo and boss in the Patriarch crime family. When he turned informant years ago, you know, he started to rat on the Italians. And that's what Whitey was doing. If you go back in the history of the mob, you would see a lot of that. You would see a lot of the Italians using the police and other law enforcement to get some of their problems solved. You know, Whitey did it to an extreme. I was lucky that I was never around him. I had a few messages sent to Stevie Fleming over some guys I was after. Stevie did the right thing. He sent them back to me. You know, that's as far as I would go with that. Whitey and Stevie went to the Wise Guys. My father took a place over, you know, and they went to a Salemi, and they actually told Whitey and Stevie to screw, you know, because they're not Italian. Well, Stevie is half Italian, yeah, I believe. And Frankie Salemi was half Italian, you know. But at that time, nobody really cared about Whitey as far as the Italians went. He had interactions with them, but Stevie Fleming was the buffer between the two, the Angiulo family and Whitey.
It's publicly known, Bobby, that Whitey Bulger and his gang were police informers. Would you say that Whitey and his gang were given a license to kill by the authorities?
Well, you could say that to a point, because anytime that they were after him, I know that Connolly, the FBI agent, would tip him off. If the state police or local police, any agency was after Whitey, and Connolly got wind of it, Whitey got tipped off. And Connolly knew about the murders. And Connolly would tell Whitey who was ratting and who wasn't ratting. So, I mean, yeah, we got a lot of information from the FBI. You know, Connolly was a dirty cop, and he was in Whitey's pocket. You know, it's just unfortunately the way that Whitey used it. And he attacked the Italians with it.
What was Angelo Bruno like to work for, Bobby?
Angelo was killed years ago. I never met Angelo, and I went down there after Nicky Scarfa, so I never met Nicky either. You know, but these two guys, Angelo Bruno, from everything I heard, he was a real mob boss.
Yeah.
You know, he was a good man, and well, for that life, you know, I got to be careful when I say that. You know, it's like church choirs. You know, he wasn't that good, but he was a good man in that life. Nicky Scarfa was an animal. We all know that, his reputation.
Did the Scarfo family grow in power when little Nicky took over, Bobby?
Did it grow in power?
Did it grow in power?
Grow in power? Yeah. I think when Nicky took over, the family was at its peak. And then it started to decline after that. You know, I mean, but Nicky was a bad guy. I think at that time, a lot of these guys were following what Johngotti was doing, you know, and it's sad, you know. But Nicky, I think he lived with paranoia, you know, his whole time there. And a lot of people got killed in Philly at that time when he was in charge.
You worked under Joey Molino, didn't you, Bobby?
Joey Molino, yes.
What was it like working under Joey?
I love Joey. I still do. I really like Joey. You know, like I tell people, there was a war in Philly in the 90s. There was a war up in Boston. You know, I was one of the last guys standing up there. And thank God Joey made it out of his situation, you know. And it was kind of like the same. When I met Joey and Georgie Borghese and Mike Lancelotti, Steve, and all these guys, they were good guys. You know, I was really proud when Joey took me in and those guys took me in.
Who was the most famous mobster, Bobby, that you looked up to in your life?
Well, I would say local mobsters that I grew up with was probably like, I would say Joe Russo, Larry Bione. You know, these are guys from Boston. These were bosses and capos, these guys. I mean, they were bad guys. You know, they're from the original mob, these guys, you know. Today, there's nobody to look up to, I guess, you know. I guess I never looked up to my father because he was my father. You know how that goes. You know, but my father was a bad guy and a tough guy too. Can never take that away from him, you know.
See, John A. Light, Bobby, John A. Light says that there's a lot of mobsters these days put the names to murders that never ever committed.
Well, they're making a lot of guys that never broke an egg, my friend. You know what I mean? I mean, this is what's happening now in the mob. I'm not saying it's always like that. You know, there was always a belief that you had to kill somebody to be sworn in. And that's not true either. I'll tell you a story about some Bonanno guys out of New York. They killed a guy. 13 people got indicted. Who brought the guy there? Who killed the guy? Who buried the guy? Who was the boss? This went into 2 different families. 13 people on one murder. Now, all those guys are entitled to get a button. That's how they do it, my friend. There were guys up in Boston, I don't want to say who, they may have been around the corner in a getaway car. You know, like the feds accused me of all these murders that I didn't commit all these murders. Was I involved in all these murders? Yes, I was. I'll admit that, you know. But I'm not a serial killer. I didn't kill a half a dozen, 12 people, 20 people. I admit that. Out of the people that I ran with, I might have been the least out of all of them.
Yeah.
When it came to that. And I admit that because I would never lie, you know. But am I a murderer? Absolutely.
Do you know killing,
God,
Bobby?
I never have to do that again. Huh?
Yeah, I was going to say, do you know when you're killing, did it just come, like, was it just another day in the office?
I guess it's when you're on the battlefield, because we were in a war, you know. You're fighting the Germans, you're fighting the Japs, you're fighting this, you're fighting that. Does it hurt when you kill somebody? No. I got the sucker, you know. And that's how we looked at it. Me and him, that's it. You know, I still, you know, people ask me every day, do I have any regret? No. I regret all the drugs that I sold because that hurt more people than I could ever hurt with a gun on my fist or with a bat or with a knife. That I regret. And I lost my daughter to drugs in 2019.
Sorry to hear that, Bobby.
No, it's okay. You know, it's just now, you know, I'm an advocate against it. I don't like it. I don't want it around me. You know, see me, I never got hooked on drugs or alcohol or my vice is cigarettes.
Yeah.
which is killing me slowly, but that's my vice, you know? And I just can't understand what these people are going through. And, you know, it's sad, you know?
Do you mind me asking, Bobby, what your daughter died of? Which drugs your daughter died of?
I think it was fentanyl. I think it was
Is
fentanyl.
that a prescription from the...
No, this is the shit that's on the street out here right now. Instead of the heroin, they're cutting the heroin with the fentanyl. They're cutting cocaine with fentanyl. They're putting this stuff in everything. I guess it's really cheap coming out of Mexico. I don't know the whole story, you know. Just disgusted with it. You know, Decca?
So when you're saying, Bobby, in 1999, you were indicted by the FBI for conspiracy to distribute cocaine.
Yeah.
See, when you look back now, when you were selling drugs back in the day, and then obviously your daughter's died of drugs, how did that make you feel?
Terrible. Terrible. Because what it does as a parent to lose a child, what did I do to so many other parents? The fathers, the brothers, the sisters, the cousins. What did I do to them? I'm not saying these people OD'd on my cocaine or my marijuana, but now they're shooting it, they're smoking it. Maybe some did. It's just terrible, you know? And yeah, it's sad that anybody's still doing that. But, you know, when you got that callus over your heart, who cares at that time, you know? Until that was removed, then I seen it. Then I felt the guilt from it.
That's the thing, Bobby. You were making money through people's misery.
Yes. Well, that's what the mob is, my friend. We live off of people's vices. That's where we make our money. Whether it's loan sharking, gambling, prostitution, drugs, liquor, whatever it is, whatever your vice is, we're going to get you.
Is it not true, Bobby, that a lot of, like, some of the godfathers were against drugs?
Well, you got to remember, when they came down with that rule, the old godfathers had money. You know, it was the guys on the street that were actually working on the street needed to sell these drugs to make money. You know, like I said it before, Luciano, that whole commission, they all dealt drugs. You know, that was just part of everything else. When Prohibition was over in the 30s, then boom, you know, you got the drugs. In drugs and Prohibition, you know, big money. Big money.
In the mafia, Bobby, could you be clipped for getting caught selling drugs?
I guess so. I don't know anybody that ever got clipped for it. You know, myself personally, everybody was doing it.
Yeah.
You know, there were not everybody. I mean, there were guys, they were bookmakers, big loan sharks, had construction companies who did this and that. Not everybody sold drugs. Some guys looked down on us, you know, don't get me wrong. That was one of the excuses they used in the Patriarca family, not to make me. Meanwhile, all their couples and everything were dealing heroin. So it was just a nonsense excuse, you know. But listen, a street guy goes out there to make money, and they're going to do whatever they can to make the money. And that's
how old were you, Bobby, when you made your first $1 million?
Well, I probably in my 20s with the properties, you know. I never made $1 million that was in my hand in my 20s. Don't get me wrong, but I started building equity.
Yeah.
You know, I had some stuff on the trust companies and everything. I dabbled a little with some drugs in my 20s to make some extra money and things. I'm not going to lie about that. I did a few violent things in my 20s. I'm not going to lie about that. But I would say the first time that I could actually get my hands on a large sum of money is probably like when I came back in the 90s. There was money just sitting there for me, you know.
Do you think, Bobby, in your early 20s, when you were saying that you dabbled with drugs, did that ever change the man that you were? Did drugs ever affect your mindset?
What was that?
When you were on drugs in your 20s, Bobby, did it ever affect your mindset? Did it ever change you as a man?
I didn't do drugs.
No?
No.
Never ever took drugs. So you just sold drugs, you never took drugs?
I was, I think in high school, East Boston High, and I started smoking marijuana. I tried that a few times. You know, we were kids, 11, 12 years old. We used to go drinking on the weekend. That didn't last long. I used to get sick all the time. I was 30 years old when I did my first line of cocaine. I was at a party on Martha's Vineyard. It was something euphorical. I mean, it was crazy what how I felt, you know. But I didn't abuse it. I'm not gonna lie. I was I had a lot of gourmets, a lot of women around me. Some of them liked it. You know, I might get an 8-ball and go to a hotel room with a girl for a night or two. I'm not gonna lie about that. But I wasn't known to do drugs. I really didn't like to do drugs. And you know, I like scotch. I was a scotch guy.
Oh, whiskey?
Oh, really scotch.
Oh,
Not
I
too
love
much
it.
whiskey. Yeah. But I was
Did
a
you ever
scotch.
feel, Bobby, when you worked in the mob, did you ever feel that you were always in danger of being clipped yourself? Were you always looking over your shoulder?
Every day. Never left the house without a gun, you know. And they tried a few times. They didn't succeed, obviously. I'm here. But they tried a few times. Coming to my safe houses, I caught them. Coming to my house where my wife and kids were. I didn't kill the guy because it was on my block, on my street. He ran off. I let him run. You know, I'm not an idiot. If I killed him there, it would have been me. I would have been gone, you know. But I knew who it was, and he ended up dying anyway later. So, but yeah, they tried several times.
Did you ever have rules, Bobby, in the mob? Did you ever have rules, no women, no children?
I would never hurt a child or a woman myself. I wouldn't. You know,
Was there ever a situation, Bobby, when you went to clip somebody that there was like you maybe went to do a hit and there was a kid and a woman there and you couldn't do it?
Oh, that happened many times. There was one person actually we were after, and what you just said would occur almost every time we found him. You know, and I don't know if he was doing it on purpose. He's a friend of mine now. I don't want to say a name, but yeah, it was very frustrating. You know, and one night I was like, you know, I didn't care and I wanted to rush him. And my partner told me no. He was a little wiser than I was. I used to get off the handle a little, you know. But yeah, that's happened. It's happened. And I didn't go to people's houses where their wife and children were. Like they used to lay on me. I didn't do that. You know, I really didn't. I try to follow their pattern where they went, where they hung out, their social clubs, and I would try that way. But never with a wife or children, no.
Do you know what, Bobby? I asked John this same question. Now, you know, you've turned your life around, you've become a pastor, and you've gave your life to God. With admitting to openly killing people, did it ever cause you trauma later on in life?
In what way?
Well, I mean, I know you said you don't live in regret from any of the killings that you did, but with the violent lifestyle that you lived, did it ever cause trauma later on in life when you left that life behind?
No, I'm going to tell you why. You know, I'm a theologian, very deep in the Bible. You know, when God takes us, he knows our sins and what we did. It's about the heart. You understand? What we did in our conscious minds, what we did to live every day is one thing. Okay? So it wasn't traumatic for me. And at any point, you know, I know the Bible. I know that God forgave me. You know, it never caused me problems afterwards, if that's the question you're asking me.
Yeah.
Like I said, with no regrets, I just went on, you know. I started studying. I started following the Bible. I started writing. I started teaching. Became a pastor for a short time. You know, sometimes, you know, things get brought up, like when we talk and we do these shows, and, you know, some of the things come back to me that I did. you know, it's sad that those things happen, but I know what those guys would have did to me.
Yeah.
If they had the chance. So how could I feel bad about that? Decca?
Well, really, Bobby, it was kill or be killed, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. You know, is our military, because you guys are over there too, go to Afghanistan and just stand there like targets, come and kill me? No, we're shooting back, aren't we? That's what you have to do. Well, so my state of mind, you know, it's still like that. I still got a lot of that in me, you know, and I can't help that. That's what makes who I am today.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm always going to have these beliefs, Decca. I'm just, you know, God knows what I did. He washed the blood from my hands. I'm happy. And
Bobby, I mean, I was reading as well, mate, you spent 14 years from 99 to 2013 in prison.
Yep.
That is a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. I got institutionalized in there. But, you know, that was the time that I needed to change my life around, to be honest with you, Decca. I needed that 14 years, you know, because even when I got out, a few things pissed me off. I could use that, right? A few things pissed me off, and right away you think of the violence. But thank God I couldn't get to who I wanted to get to, you know? So it takes years. You know, I read hundreds and hundreds of books. And I read Watchman Nee, and he was a great Christian writer, Chinese guy. And he says sometimes it takes 21 years for a man to totally turn his life around. And, you know, I used to read these, no, it can't be, you know. But I'll tell you, the man was right. It takes time to turn your life around. It really does. You could sometimes feel that violence spark right back up into you, you know.
Do you know what,
I
Bobby?
didn't see a question, or did I go off track? I'm sorry.
No, that's good, mate. That's really good.
Yeah.
Mate, 14 years is a hell of a long time. I mean, that is a lot of time to reflect.
Well, I'll tell you, you know what? When I went to prison, you know, in the beginning, I was a wise guy. You know, even though I was searching at that point, and I didn't want to work. I didn't want to know nothing. I'm who I am, you know. But God starts to break you down, and prison breaks you down slowly. What God has to do, it says in the Bible that he has to break you to renew you. And that's what prison did for me. It broke me down. So in the course of that, in my studies, and getting a degree in theology, in teaching, helping other people, I worked in prison. I loved it. I'd buff floors. I was head cook. I was education teacher. I taught GED. I taught geology classes. I set up courses for guys who were going home with the carpentry. You know, I was very productive, and I wanted to make something out of that time. I'll tell you, it was horrible. There were nights that I'd lay on my bunk and didn't want to wake up. I'm not going to lie to you. But I'll tell you, that helped me. I needed that to turn me around, and God knew I needed that. You know, when I first got pinched, they wanted me to rat. And I was facing a life sentence because all my friends were ratting on me. I did talk to them. I'm not going to lie. I went in heavy prayer, you know, and I'm not going to say God didn't tell me to rat.
Yeah.
He showed me the signs. I'll say that. You know, he does reveal the heart. The people you loved, you killed with, you did things with, made money with, you know, he does reveal the heart at the end. Long story short, I did go talk to them, but I couldn't do it. I'm not a rat, my friend. I could not do it. To really sit across from a guy and you're going to put him in prison for life and you're going to walk away. I'm going to talk about my friend to you. I'm going to go on a stand to testify against a guy, my friend. Yeah, you could do that to me. I'm not doing that to you. So anyway, I get superseded, murders, all of this, why I'm in there. Because like I said, so-called friends were ratting on me. And I decided to fight the government. And I went to 2 trials, lost both of them. But I slipped through the guidelines on the second trial because I won an appeal. And I ended up getting 15-8 instead of 20 years.
Yeah.
And I think every day in prison helped me. It might sound weird and strange to you, but it brought me to where I am today and where I am with Christ. And I think that was important because I could have never managed that in population, my friend, because I would have been Bobby Luisi in population.
When you went to prison, Bobby, in 99 and you got out in 2013, did life just feel a whole lot different?
A whole lot different. I hit the streets after 13 years, 9 months, and I did a 40-day fast. When the fast was over, I started looking for a job. I got a job right because I'm skilled with management, you know, with construction.
Yeah.
I got to manage a job right away, you know, and then I just started putting my life back together. You know, a lot of guys get institutionalized. They're in there 15 years, 20 years, 25 years. They can't cope when they come out. I never had that problem, you know. So I come out of prison swinging. But I knew I couldn't go back to Boston. Mentally, I wouldn't have been able to handle that at the time. The disrespect or anything else, you know.
You always live, Bobby. You know, you see a lot of the mobsters ratting on each other. Did you always live by that code of loyalty to your friends?
Yes, until my friends turned on me. That was the problem. I believe, you know, when our generation got in there, we thought we were going to change things, get it back to the way it was. You know, you always believe in that. You know, it's like when they hire a new CEO of a company, they think they're going to change everything, like Lee Iacocca or Chrysler. You know what I mean? You think you're going to go in, you're going to change things, we're going to do things a better way. It was all bullshit, my friend. You know, the loyalties to themselves, omerta, that's all nonsense now. You know, these guys that are getting made today, they didn't grow up with the old timers. They weren't schooled properly. The mob is never going to be the same. Never. You know, and when my friends turned on me, what was I supposed to do? Go and do life, which I ended up almost did that anyway. Decca. You know, I didn't cooperate. So now I'm going to go do life, and these guys are going to go home. I was in a terrible situation. And that's what this life puts you in. It's just another battle. You battle on the street, then you got to battle in prison. Just another battle, you know?
Were you ever put in a situation in prison, Bobby, where you had to defend your life?
Well, I fought. No problem. You know, I never had anybody come at me with a shank or anything. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, like, you know, just obviously with your reputation, did it precede you in prison?
Oh, yeah, it did. It did, absolutely. You know, but I'll tell you, you know, the blocks I was in, you know when people get familiar, especially with a guy like you, big tough guy like you, they think they can slap you on the back or make an off-cuff comment, and then you got to put them back in line, right? It's the same thing in prison, my friend. You got to put a few of them back in line. Most of the time I walked into a cell, they surrender right away.
Yeah.
But I've been in quite a few brawls. I've been in a few brawls in prison, you know. But like I said, even the threats of that, I didn't even worry about it, you know. So
would you say prison's like, you know, when you watch the movies, Bobby, when you see like the gangster movies, is prison like that in real life, where you get all the, like, they get the little room and they're all sitting together cooking food and eating together? Is that real?
Well, see, upstate, back in the 70s and the 60s and the 50s and maybe the early 80s. Yeah, I would say in the 80s too, up in Boston, maybe a little. Yeah, you got that treatment. You're paying guards, you're having stuff brought in, you know. I mean, it still happens in the feds and the state prisons today. I'm not saying it doesn't. You know, at that time, like in the movies, like in Goodfellas and all these other movies, yeah, they had it like that. The Italians had it like that. They had the money and the power. You got to remember, it's like a lot of years ago, local police in Boston were from the neighborhoods.
Yeah.
My friends became cops. I can't tell you how many times I caught a break. you know, and they look the other way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So now you got these COs in these prisons, and they're going to look the other way. They don't want to have a problem. They know who you are. But see, now they got these renter prisons up here. You know, they're like paid prisons. You know, the feds are just putting you anywhere now. You know, so it's a little different up here, the prison system. You can't get away with that stuff no more. They were still getting drugs in when I was in prison, cigarettes and all that when they weren't allowed, but you know.
One question I wanted to ask you, Bobby. See in America, see the sport, see boxing.
Yeah.
Does the mafia have a big say in the boxing, in the sport of boxing?
They did. They did up until the time of like Don King. You know, now today, I don't even know because, you know, the ring and all that is big now. All that MMA stuff, all the stuff you did, you know, that's boxing here now. I don't even know. Is there a heavyweight champion here, Paul?
Deontay Wilder.
Is it? I don't even know.
He was. Our guy, Tyson Fury, beat Deontay Wilder for the world championship. But I think the heavyweight division in America is a bit poor at the moment, Bobby, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. You know, the last friend, my friend Vinny Pazienza, middleweight champion 5 times, you know. And I went to prison. I haven't followed any of that. You know, I grew up with Muhammad Ali. I grew up with all these guys. They were all Joe Frazier. These guys were great fighters, Bo.
Yeah.
They go in the ring, they kill each other. You know, then there was a little flash there with Mike Tyson. You know, he had his run. But after that, I just stopped paying attention to boxing.
Yeah.
I really did. I'm not going to lie. I used to watch that ring with the Gracie brothers. I enjoyed that. That octagon, I used to watch afterwards.
UFC.
Yeah. I enjoyed that. See, I can't even remember the name of it. That's how long ago it was.
Yeah.
The Gracies were what, 15, 20 years ago? I don't even know. You know?
What we're going to do, Bobby, before we start speaking about your book that you've got out at the moment, which you'll be able to click on in the description box, and also you'll be able to subscribe to Bobby's channel, which you can see in the description box as well. I want to bring some questions from the audience. So if my guy can put the first question up for Bobby, and I'll ask Bobby the question.
Boston friends.
Boston or Philly friends betrayed you?
It was Boston guys that betrayed me, not Philly.
It was the Boston guys, Bobby, yeah?
Yeah.
That was from Bunker Loyalist. Have we got another question for Bobby, guys? Got to be sensible. The sensible questions. Take it easy on Bobby.
Well, to go back to who ratted on me in Philly was a capo. He started the ball rolling.
Yeah.
It was the Boston guys with the murders. I want to clear that up. Ron Previty out of Philly did rat on me.
You know when you got ratted on, Bobby, what was the first thought in your head? Clip him.
Oh yeah, as soon as they picked up me and Joey, I know they went looking for Ronnie. You know, and they couldn't find him. They sold his house. Ronnie was a snake. He had everything all set up. The feds took him right out. You know, so he was in the wind.
I've got a question here from Dublin, Ireland. Who were the hardest people in Boston? Like, who was the tough guys in Boston, Bobby?
Who would I think were the tough guys in Boston? Which, in my era?
Yeah.
In my era? I'd say guys like Gigi Portella, Mark Rossetti, you know, myself, some other people, you know, a lot of tough Irish guys, the Myers brothers, Phil Myers, you know, a lot of tough Irish guys up there. I don't want to keep saying names, you know, but
Yeah. We've got another question here, buddy, from 1990s breakbeat junkie. Was Scarfo as crazy as people made out?
Yeah, I think that he suffered with paranoia. That's why all those people were killed. Tell him, yes, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Was he very paranoid, Scar4, Bobby?
Well, being in this life and being a boss, the paranoia sets in really bad with people. They think they're getting clipped. They think people are after them. Who could this be? In their minds, if they're not stable, they're picking on everybody. Kavish? So,
Yeah.
I mean, I have to say that Nicky's problem was paranoia.
Here's the one from Brian Cuss, Bobby. What is the one thing you will never forgive?
Betrayal. Like the guys that betrayed me. It's hard for me still to forgive.
I've got a question here, Bobby, from Aaron McSweeney. Do you still get involved with trouble if you need to? And does he still know people that can help him if you ever need it?
Well, I got to tell you this, and again, I'm not going to mention names, but there were a lot of loyalists that were still with me when I left. And I have a lot of friends that came to me, said, whatever you need, Bobby, we're here. They're good, trusty men. I got Paul Tanzo here, was a main guy on my crew.
Yeah.
He does the show with me. And yeah, I do have a lot of loyal friends here. I have friends here that don't care about the mafia that's here now. So yeah, but I have to say this, as long as, to answer his question, as long as they don't bother me or come near me and I don't feel a threat,
yeah,
there's no problem from me. I just want to live my life.
Got a question there about was Rocky Marciano's links to the mob true?
From what I know, in Rocky Marciano's day, and Rocky Graziano, both of them, in their day, the mob ran everything. I mean, Rocky Marciano was one of the greatest fighters that ever going to be,
Yeah.
But still, you still got to do the right thing to get where you want to go.
Got another question here, Bobby. Explain the type of person Tommy Karate was.
Tommy Karate. I wasn't too familiar with him.
No?
No, I can't answer that.
Oh, sorry about that, Bobby. Tell you what, we'll take one more question, guys, and make it a good one. I mean, a question from me, Bobby. Who is the most active family now in 2021 in America?
I think the best family still organizing together is the Genovese family.
The Genovese. Was the Genovese linked to Angelo Bruno's murder, Bobby?
Well, what happened, and from what I know about the story, is that the few guys that wanted to whack him, when they went back to New York after it was done, they got clipped.
Yeah.
So New York wasn't happy. The commission wasn't happy when Angelo got clipped. But there were New York guys agitating that. I don't know if they were the Genovese or the Gambinos. I can't say for sure. I don't know if we'll ever know that.
I'm going to ask you one more question, Bobby, before we talk about your book. Did you ever meet or come in close with a guy called Richard Kuklinski, the Iceman?
No, I never. He was a little before my time. New York guy out there. I never met him. And I wasn't privy to those units when I was around. I never met him.
I found it quite crazy, though, Bobby, that Richard Kuklinski worked for all 5 families.
Well, listen, he had a reputation. He was a killer. He had his partner, and they killed a lot of people, and they were just like a gun for hire, I would say. No loyalty to anybody, just to themselves, and he was a serial killer. Didn't matter,
Got a question from Sam Snell. Are the Latinos a strong body in New York?
The Latinos are strong everywhere now. They're strong in Boston. They're strong west of Boston. They're strong in New York. Yeah. Yeah, they got their territories.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're strong. Yeah.
Well, thanks for that, Bobby. Well, Bobby, your book that you wrote, author of God's Plan Revealed.
Now, let me talk about the book for a minute.
Yeah.
If you don't mind. I originally wrote this book, The Last Generation, and I published this in 2013 when I got out. I wrote it in prison. And I wrote it under Alonzo Esposito. So what I did recently is I wrote about, I re-edited the book, God's Plan Revealed by Robert Luisi, when I took my name back. You know, I stopped using Alonzo Esposito as a pen name and my ministry name. So now I have stuff in this book about England, Great Britain, the United Kingdom, because I pray for Great Britain every day, you know, and there's spiritual reasons behind that. The book itself breaks down from the book of Genesis to Revelations. I used to do a 24-week course that I taught in prison and when I got out of prison. And it's about creationism and breaks the Bible down in a historical timeline. And Great Britain's a part of that.
Yeah.
Part of that prophecy. And I wrote in the book, when I start talking about the beast and I start talking about the European Union, and I wrote in the book, if you went back to The Last Generation, the original one, and it's in the new book, the content is the same in both books. The only thing I changed was the about in the front, you know, the forward, because Alonzo was in there. But I say how England would never fully become a part of the European Union. And to me, not taking the currency when you was voted on that was the most important thing.
Yeah.
Because it didn't pull you into that. Because I don't care what politics are going now, what they say in Britain, what they say in Scotland, Ireland, you know, I know that England is always going to be an ally to the United States. And the United States is always going to back England. And they're very important in time to come in my prophecies in my book. You know, so every day I pray for my great nation. I pray for Great Britain. And to me, that's all the English-speaking countries, Australia, New Zealand, everywhere, you know, and I pray for Israel, Mount Zion every day. Because I believe in prophecy, we're going to play a big part in everything, you know. But yeah, this is why I want to come to England. I want to see London and, you know, just the history behind it, you know. Like, I'm into Braveheart and all those movies and all those series. Anything English, I got to watch it. Anything Scottish, you know what I mean? That's what I like for some reason. I know I see you smirking, but...
Bobby, do you want to know something, mate? I mean, I've sat listening to you tonight, mate, and what a life. What a life. I mean, to go from the man that you were, I mean, do I call you cold-hearted? Do I call you the cold-hearted killer?
Yeah.
You weren't a serial killer, but you had no empathy, didn't care, you just did the job.
Yeah.
And now you're a loving, caring man that doesn't like violence. But can I ask you this question, Bobby? Are you ever tempted to go back to that lifestyle? Are you ever, you know, put in that situation where you in your head, you're like, come on, Bobby, let's just take a step back here before I do something stupid?
Well, I got to be perfectly honest with you. You know, sometimes I do these shows and I feel like I'm regressing. Sometimes I get pissed off with something and I think right away for violence. I just hope I'm not put in a situation on the street. You know, I've been back home for 3 years. No one even come near me, praise God. You know, I think God is my shield and buckler. But I don't know what I'm going to do if the time happens, if the time comes. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not a perfect person. I'm only a man. You know, I smoke cigarettes. I drink once in a while, like my scotch, you know, and if violence happens to come up, it's going to come up. You know, when I got out in 2013, I got a nice job. I was a quality control manager in a place in Tennessee. I'm not going to say the name of the company, but it was a big metal cabinet company. And they were having a problem with the staff. There were 70 employees there. So they wanted a guy like me to go in and straighten the place out. They know about my organizational skills and all of that. It's funny, I had to take a test when I married my second wife at the church. And she ran in there and said, you know, you got to hire him. You got to hire him. So they hired me there, and I started to straighten out the floor, and I had to go in there kind of like the old Bobby. And there was a few times, you know, punches were going to be thrown. Thank God it didn't come to that. Fought with the union, fought with everybody. What I'm trying to tell you, Decca, is it comes up. I can't help it. It's just something inside of me. It comes up, and I pray every day that God is my shield and buckler, and I pray he's my protector, and I'm not put in that situation. Did I answer the question?
You did, Bobby. The old Bobby, is the old Bobby still living in the back of your mind and at any time could just come out?
Well, that's what I'm trying to repress. That's like I just said with that story. Yeah. It almost came out there several times.
Do you feel in control of yourself now, Bobby?
I do. I'm in more control. I'm more humble. You know, I'm not as fast to snap off anymore. You know, God's done a lot of good work in me. You know, I don't think I could sit and premeditate a murder again. I never want to hurt anybody again. I never want to get hurt. But I'm a soldier, Bull. Someone comes at me the wrong way, I'm going to react. And I just don't want that to happen.
Yeah. Just got a question here, Bobby. Do you know a guy called Pat Nee?
Pat Nee, yeah. Why do I know that name? Pat Nee. I don't know if he was a Charlestown or Somerville guy. I know Pat Nee. I know that name. Well, you got to remember, like, you're going back to names 25 years ago. Yeah. I have a hard time. But I know that name. Yes, I do.
Well, I'm going to say, Bobby, mate, it's been an absolute honour having you on. If you've got any advice for anyone, Bobby, especially the young kids growing up nowadays that want to get into crime, because a lot of guys, a lot of kids growing up watch all these gangster movies. They want to be bad boys. They want to commit crime. They want to get into selling drugs. What would your advice to them be?
I have to say that everything in life always looks good on the surface. Even a beautiful woman sometimes. It's only the surface, my friend. It's bad what's underneath. Listen, a life of crime is no good for nobody. It's only going to get you dead or in prison. You know, I know a lot of these young kids like myself came up. They see the money, they see the action, they want the glamour. It's not worth it, my friend.
Yeah.
It's better off putting your head on the pillow at night. Who wants to be in prison? You know, you want to have a family. We're here to have a family. We're here to honor God, you know, not to do these things. Not even if you sell drugs, you're hurting people. People are getting hurt every day in this country, in your country, all around the world, with this heroin, with this fentanyl, with this cocaine. You know, I mean, the only thing, this marijuana, I think, is great for some people. It helps them, it calms them down. I know a lot of people hype. I know it helps my daughter, you know, and I think that's okay. But these pill prescriptions, these other things, these guys want to get into this. You want to get into the violence, it's a dead-end street. You know, God says what? Murderers don't get into heaven. Drug dealers don't get into heaven. Think about the future, not the present. That's the mistake we all made. We thought about the present. Start thinking about the future. Young people, go to work, go to school, and stay off the street. And you'll be okay. Or you're going to end up a guy like me. 60 years old. Look at me. You know? But
one question before we go, Bobby.
Yes, my friend.
Do you think money makes you happy?
Me personally, I still don't care about it. Money just it's a tool, just gets you things that you want. I mean, listen, I got a nice place, you know, I got my studio, you know, I got a car that I drive every day. I'm content.
Yeah.
You have to be content with what God gives you. You got to live within your means, you know. Don't get me wrong. I lived a lifestyle, $1,000 suits, $2,000 suits, $300 shoes, jewelry, watches, Rolexes, beautiful cars, beautiful homes I had, you know. I don't miss any of it.
Yeah.
I don't miss that. You know, I learned in life, when you're in a cell for 14 years, and sometimes you have the cellie with you, an 8x12, you learn to appreciate everything. You learn and you see in life all your goals and everything you strive for take away in one day. They come and cuff you. It's all over, my friend. All my friends are bullet to the head. It's all over in one day. What legacy do you leave? You leave nothing. And you know, when I grew up in the 60s and the 70s and even the early 80s, mid 80s, gangsters were idolized. People loved them. You know, they were the limelight. They were the life. Just the surface. Now people look down on that. You got to hear when they come home what they say about these wise guys out there today that are in Boston, that are in New York. It's like they're playing a game, like they're jerk-offs. That's how people think today. It's not like before, you know. So I want you kids to realize you're not going to be idolized anymore. You know, you might last in a gang for a short time, but it's going to end quick. And I don't care where you are, what country you're in, it's not going to last. And God doesn't allow it. And that's what I got to say to these kids.
Wise words from a former wise guy, Bobby Luisi. Listen, mate, thank you very much from the bottom of my heart for coming on.
Thank you, my friend, for having me on. I love this today. I'll do your show anytime, Decca. Just give me a call. I'll be on.
Much love, Bobby. My name's Decca Heggie on the official All or Nothing podcast. Good night. God bless.
God bless.